Welcome back to the Undefeated Show Defining Moments podcast. We're located here in Project 3810, the house that Kyle Golding built. Today's very special guest played football at the University of Oklahoma for 3 years, selected to the All Big 12 2 times, NFL for 9 years, the undefeated American-loving Coach Jimmy Wilkerson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You also coach at Carl Albert High School.
I do.
And then you also were part of a national championship team in 2017. We'll dive all into that before we get started.
Oh,
All for you, brother.
oh, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I've been wanting some of these.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you got the whole collection.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. How's your morning been?
Morning's good. Got up, got the kids ready for school, sent them off, and now I'm here.
Yeah? What are some of your morning habits? Because you at one time played college, then you played pro. Now you're a coach. You're obviously a dad and a husband. So what are some of your morning habits to get to?
Well, for me is, when I get up in the morning, I kind of have to sit there, collect my thoughts, figure out, how I'm going to get the boys up for school. And then, just get my mind ready, geared up for the morning, just make that way upstairs, get them up, however I can. Yeah. And then help my wife with the other two.
Yeah. How old are your boys?
I have 3 boys and 1 girl. My 3 boys are 18, 16, and 12. Okay. And then my daughter's 8.
Nice. And you've been married how long?
20 years.
Wow.
We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary.
Dang, man, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So let's rewind the clock back a little bit to OU football.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to high school.
Okay.
What was the recruiting process like for you from high school to college? And then what was the process like from college to pro as far as recruiting and then your shift in mindset potentially?
Well, my junior year, we won the state championship in '98. I was very frustrated because a lot of my friends were getting college offers and I didn't get any. I was a starting quarterback, starting linebacker. I punted. And I was either second or leading tackler on the defense. I had the second most rushing yards on offense. And yet, I did not get any offers. So I was a little frustrated. Going into my senior year, I had a lot to prove. Number one is because nobody at our school thought that I was going to amount to anything. They thought the running back or the tight end was going to go far. My name was not mentioned. So that was a little bit frustrating, and I was angry about it, and I said, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I went out there and I had an even better year. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to the state championship, but letters start pouring in. I can remember like yesterday, I got my first letter from Syracuse, the college that Donovan McNabb went to. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I remember in the letter is, we want you to be the next Donovan McNabb. And I was excited about it. But then one of my teachers that used to live in New York was like, I don't think you want to go there. It's really cold and it snows a lot. So I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. But once that letter came in, then all these other letters started coming in, taking visits. That was amazing. Anybody who knows me, I grew up in a very small town, under 1,000 people, graduated with roughly 24 people. Mm-hmm. And never really been outside of Texas. So going to Oklahoma, going to Arkansas, going to Texas A&M, being on those campuses, it was really big and really mind-blowing for me. Mm-hmm. But I was mentally ready for the challenge. I felt like throughout my life, just living in one spot, I wanted to explore. I wanted to get out there and, be adventurous and, take those risks that a lot of people are afraid of. And that's a good credit. That's really big credit to my mom and to my dad. And once I chose OU, it was nervous. I was nervous, going into this big school with such a rich tradition. It made you feel really small. And being a big guy on campus or at my high school, I felt like a little kid compared to those guys. And I played scared. A lot of people don't know that, but every day that I went out to practice, I was terrified.
Wow.
And I guess that's what made me play so fast, is I didn't want to get caught by the big guys, But I learned a lot at OU. Being under Coach Bob Stoops, Brent Venables, Mike Stoops, all those great coaches that was there, through our national championship run, they taught me a lot. And that has helped me carry, on the tradition through the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Who recruited you to OU?
Mike Stoops.
Mike Stoops.
Mike Stoops. It was a weird recruiting process, because he came to my school, and if anybody knows Mike Stoops, he's really loud when he talks. And I think this was around the time where everybody was taking tests, and we were walking through the halls. It was very echoey, and he's talking to me, trying to whisper, but he's talking to me normal. And I had students come out the hallway, come out the room, trying to figure out who's talking so loud in the hallway. It was a weird moment. I was nervous. I was a quiet kid, so I didn't want any attention brought towards me. And so when people started coming out of the classroom, it kind of made me feel a bit weird. Yeah. So, but yeah, he was a good recruiter, said all the right things. I think what sold it for me was when Coach Bob Stoops came to my house and sat down with me and my mom. And when I went back to OU for spring game, I met up with Coach Stoops, and he remembers that conversation with my mom.
Wow.
22 years ago. And so that says a lot about the type of person that he is. And that was, I think, my mom made the decision for me to go to OU based on that conversation.
Wow. That's amazing how a simple act of kindness and a gesture and a conversation can really traject your future in a way.
Yeah.
Wow. What was your favorite moment at OU?
Ooh, favorite moment at OU? Well, I have two.
Yeah.
My first one was when I was a freshman. We were playing Nebraska at our stadium, and I was on special teams, really wasn't doing anything, didn't really have my name out there like a lot of these guys did. So I'm running down on kickoff, and the returner catches the ball, and everybody just parted. And I see this guy, number 25, I can't remember his name, but I made the most perfect tackle on kickoff that I've ever made in my life. And somebody snapped a picture of it right when I hit the guy. And they sent it to me, and that was I think that was one of the most defining moments of my career at OU.
Wow.
The second one was when we played Texas, my sophomore year. Going up against Chris Sims. Everybody talked about Chris Sims and how, his dad played in the NFL. Yeah. And Chris Sims was, he was a good quarterback, but everybody was like, he's not better than Major Applewhite. And I got my first sack against him, and I said, man, that felt great, because that was my first sack. And I got another sack, and then I got another sack. And then I come back, Sports Illustrated takes a picture of that, and it says, "Take that, Texas." My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we went and bought every copy that Walmart had. And that was an awesome moment, because I've never been on the cover of anything. Never been mentioned in a newspaper other than, my hometown newspaper.
Yeah.
And then I got on Sporting News, the cover of Sporting News magazine. So that was a great defining moment for me. And it really opened my eyes to my potential of what I could do. And I think from that moment, it allowed me to think about my future, my future in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so that game right there motivated me even more to be really good.
Wow. Don't you hold a sack record for OU Texas?
I think so. I think it's still the record.
Yeah.
I think it's still the record.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So when you think about that, those two defining moments in football that kind of trajected your mindset into potentially obviously the NFL, were there other moments along the way that you knew that this is it, I'm going to play in the NFL?
When I felt that the coaches and players really counted on me to go out there and do the things that they know I could do, that led me to believe that I was better than what I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of the more defining moments of me knowing that I was going to make it in the NFL. I had a lot of goals, and really what drove me was my childhood coming up. My dad was on drugs. He drank a lot of alcohol. I spent a lot of nights, pulling him out of the car because he was passed out. I've seen a lot of things as far as the drug world goes, of him buying the stuff, using the stuff, arguing with my mom on countless nights, taking money from us when we would work for it. And so that right there filled me with a lot of anger and motivation to not be in this position once I left high school. Mm-hmm. That amongst a lot of other things of people just saying you're not going to amount to anything. You're not big enough. You're not fast enough. And so I used all that as motivation. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that was one of the main reasons that I made it to the NFL, because I didn't want anybody. I wanted to prove people wrong. That I can, make it to college. I can make it to the NFL. I can last longer than the average person did in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what kept me going, because I didn't want to go back to where I started. I wanted to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. What's the difference between the mindset, I'm talking about mindset, an NFL player versus a collegiate football player?
Well, for me, and I can only speak on my mindset.
Yep.
My mindset as far as like collegiate goes, I was just there to have fun. Just have fun on the football field. I'm surrounded by a lot of great talent, learning from these guys, the seniors, Josh Heupel, Torrance Marshall, Quentin Griffin, these guys, just watching them and, absorbing all their energy and their words of wisdom and how they, do things on the practice field and then off the practice field. And that's what I did, and I think that helped me get to where I got to in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Keeping those same, home-based traditions that I used at OU and then carried them into the NFL. A lot of people, when you look at the NFL, they look at a bunch of selfish guys playing football and getting a lot of money. Mm-hmm. That same tradition that I had at OU, I carried in NFL. I played to have fun. I played to try to beat you on any given moment that I could. It doesn't matter if it's practice, doesn't matter if it's preseason, whatever. My job is to not only help you get better, but help me get better. And I think that a lot of people put money and that glam life in front of the reason that you got there.
Mm-hmm. There's a quote out there, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but it goes along the lines of, the best one out there is the one having the most fun. Mm-hmm. It sounds exactly like what you've done and what you are currently doing as a coach too, and we're going to get into that as well. That's going to be an awesome segment. So you took the fun, you took the NFL, you had 9 great years, and what made you want to just retire and walk away from it?
Well, I didn't have a choice on the retiring part. I had goals, going into my junior year, or actually my sophomore year in college. Played 3 years, get drafted in the NFL, play 10 years. Played 3 years, I got 9 years in the NFL. What forced me into retirement was I tore my MCL my last year in the league. And that was a big blow mentally, because I knew, given my age, I knew that nobody was going to want me on their team. It was just my second major knee surgery. And I always go back to, if I was drafted in the first round in 2003, I would probably be on a team. But the fact that I was drafted in the 6th round, I was less valuable. And I often think about that a lot. Like, what could I have done differently to prevent that injury? Those type of things always cross my mind, but there was nothing that I could do. There was nothing that I could have done in that situation of me not tearing my MCL, because it had nothing to do with me at the moment. Thinking back, I can still picture it right now, of me turning and running down the field, and I can see my teammate getting pushed and him falling into my leg. There's nothing I can do. I did my job. I turned and running. He got pushed in the back. So, I think about those moments a lot. And in my mind, I can still play, but I know my body can't. So that's why I use high school football to continue living out my dream of football.
So you're taking your experiences and passing on to the younger generation, molding the new leadership.
Yes.
Before we get into Carl Albert, let's back up to 2017, because that was a really big year for you as well.
Yes.
Right. Let's talk about that, Coach.
All right. Well, I got invited by a high school friend of mine to help coach at Texas A&M Commerce. Didn't know anything about the Lions. Didn't know the coaching staff. I just knew him because he was my teammate when we were in high school. And he said, "Hey, I've been thinking about this a lot. I want you to, come down here and, help us with the defense line. You can be like a pass rush specialist. I think we need some help. We're kind of struggling in that department." Talked to my wife about it. And she said, "You know what? Go ahead, go down there. I think it'd be a good experience." So I went down there. They had a lot of talent. The problem was these guys were in bad situations. They're too small, they're too short, to play Division I, or they got into some trouble while they were at a Division I school, and then they had to try their hand at Division II. But they reminded me of how we were in 2000. A bunch of guys who were basically no-name guys who were pretty much counted out, came from the John Blake era, and nobody really thought that they were going to amount to anything. That's exactly what they were. And I said, man, this team has national championship vibes to it. I think I'm gonna rock with this team, right? So going down there, giving my expertise and giving them information on how to be a good pass rusher, how to take on blocks, and I'm just giving them a taste of what I see when I'm watching them, what type of moves that I feel was going to be best for them. If anybody knows me, when I'm coaching a defensive lineman, I don't normally give a defensive lineman the same move as another defensive lineman, because not every move fits their style. And so, going throughout the season, it was kind of the same thing as OU. They started out low, and then they start rising through the ranks. And we got to the playoffs, and it was on. And won the national championship with a group of guys who had stuck to the game plan that the coaches put out for them.
That's awesome, because you were the pass rush specialist and the defensive line coach.
Yes.
And I think that team had the most sacks
Mm-hmm.
of all of any scholarship school in all of Texas that year.
Right.
That's including Division I.
Yes.
That's,
Yes.
That's an amazing stat.
It is very amazing, and I was so proud to have been a part of that, and to be on that journey with them, and to just give them the advice that that I've learned throughout my college and NFL career.
Mm. What's one thing you feel like you've learned from that year about yourself?
The one thing that I've learned throughout the 17 year is, well, that's a tough one, because I think the one thing that I've learned is that helping people, when you see the talent, I think that right there has made me more of a better person, because a lot of people, and I use this even now, a lot of people walk through life and they see people, they just see a person. Throughout my years of playing and being in the film room, I study people. I study their mannerisms. I study their body language, and I walk through halls. I walk through, in the stores. I don't just see a person. I look at those people and I see their facial expressions, and I can tell when something's wrong, or the way they walk. I can tell that, something's bothering them. I think that by me helping these guys get to the national championship and winning, it gave me that motivation that is not just about football. It's more about, just ordinary people, because there are a lot of ordinary people that go through life that people don't see their struggle. People don't see that they're sad. People don't see that something's bothering them. And I try to take that moment to look at a person and see if that person is happy, or if that person is okay with where they're at in life, versus just looking at somebody that's like, all right, whatever, just keep on going about your day.
That's powerful, Coach, and that's actually really deep. So then my question is, what does leadership feel like to you, and how do you define leadership?
To me, leadership for a lot of people is a scary moment, because I think a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves to be the perfect leader. And I think there is no perfect leader. You look throughout the whole history of humankind. There hasn't been a perfect leader other than God, right? And I think my leadership is just me being me. How am I going through life? Am I leading by example, or am I leading through my actions? Because you can lead by example, and then your actions, once you're away from those people, are something totally different. A lot of people have, it's almost like preaching, right? You get behind the pulpit and you're telling everybody about God and how you should be, how you should serve God according to what the Bible says. And then once you leave and you're not around the congregation, you're off doing something that is totally different and off base of what you're telling us.
Yeah.
If we can learn to lead by our actions instead of by our mouth, then you make you a better leader. People are going to follow you, and they're going to understand why they're following you, instead of just taking your word for it.
Yeah. Wow. This leadership topic is one of my favorite topics. What's your relationship with Senior Chief George of QB Impact?
He's like my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we met at Oklahoma Christian Academy, I didn't know him at the time. And it was a weird situation of how we met, but the fact that we met and we had the same goals, we had the same views as far as football, as far as life. In my mind, and I tell my wife this, I've been looking for somebody like that. Somebody who has the same mind that I have and see things the way I see it. Because the way I see things is kind of foreign to a lot of people. It's like they don't really understand. And when you get around people that don't really understand how you think and what you see, it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of frustrating, and in a way, it pulls you away from those people in search of somebody else who is kind of like-minded. Tom and I, we coached at OCA, and despite everything that was going on at OCA, that was the one person that I knew that I can go to and we can feed off each other. We can give each other advice. And, even on the football field, when he's running the offense, I'm watching him, I'm listening to how he's talking. I'm watching how, he has the quarterbacks go through certain progressions. I am, looking at his playbook, so I can be a better, even though that a lot of people don't see it as a competition. They just see offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I'm putting a defense together, he's putting offense together. But it's a healthy competition. I want to be around people who are gonna make me better and who I can make better, despite all the accolades and all the things that you've done in your life.
Right.
If you stop trying to get better, then how can you make somebody else better? I'm always learning, even now. There's going to be something new. Every day there's going to be something new. And I want to be around those guys that are going to push those things towards me so I can be a better person.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're wearing a shirt with one of my favorite words, says freedom on it. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means a lot to me. Growing up where I grew up, and a lot of people, they grew up in much worse places than I did. But I grew up in Northeast Texas, in a small country town, predominantly white. I've heard racism, racist slurs from the time that I was in grade school up until the time that I graduated. The thing that I love about the word freedom is this. My grandfather, on my mom's side, bought a house in Omaha, Texas. That's where I'm from.
Yep.
It's the first black man to buy land. First black man to buy land in that town.
Wow.
And he had a lot of land. And the fact that during that time that he bought the land, it was still big in racism and things like that. For him to do that, that's freedom right there. You can go into a predominantly white town and buy land and hold that land as a black person. To me, that's freedom. Freedom is I have the same rights and opportunities as the next person. My type of freedom is it doesn't matter what a person of another color has over me, over their experience or lack of experience. For instance, in the NFL, when I got drafted, there could have been a person of a different color that was in my position, probably had less numbers, that probably got drafted higher. I don't look at it as, well, that's discrimination. They're discriminating on me. My numbers are better than that guy. I think he only got it because he's white. I don't look at it like that. I got drafted in the NFL. No matter where I got drafted. Now I got to put in the work. Right? So, to me, it's not about where you start. It's about where you finish. It's about how uncomfortable are you going to get yourself to start climbing the ladder. And it goes back to the same thing with life. a lot of people who are in situations kind of like what I came from, who are around drugs, around, violence, they think that that's the world that they're supposed to live in. So they get comfortable. When you get comfortable in a situation like that, you're not going to move.
Yeah.
There's no motivation to.
Right.
I was uncomfortable in my situation. So I created goals. I created things that are going to help me get out of this uncomfortable feeling. When I got to college, I was uncomfortable. I wanted to keep progression. NFL, same thing. I don't want to be in that same situation because it makes me kind of self-centered. It makes you think that you're all that, and you don't have the motivation to keep winning, And it's not just about winning games, it's winning life. How can I be a better person today? How can I be a better person tomorrow? I always tell people, the one thing that I tell the guys that I coach is to know yourself. And a lot of people don't understand that phrase, know yourself. It's like, well, I do know myself. My name is such and such. No. Know yourself means, in the football world, is you have to feel your feet in the ground. You have to feel where your hips are. When I'm talking about defensive line, you have to feel your hand in the dirt, right? You have to feel your get off. You have to understand, what move did you just do to beat this guy? You have to understand why you got beat. I always say that because when you're in the NFL, you need to know what you did wrong and what you did right before the coach does. Because if you don't know what you did wrong, how are you gonna move forward? So one of my biggest supporters was my wife. When I got drafted, and she's sitting up there in the stands with all the other wives, and a lot of these wives, all they want to talk about is what they got and all this stuff. They don't watch the game. My wife watched the game. She'll talk when I'm not on the field. When I'm on the field, she's, hey, I gotta watch the game. The reason why she's watching the game is because I asked her, I said, I want you to watch me and see what I do wrong. I said, don't tell me what I do good, because I already know that. I'm celebrating that stuff. I want to know what I did bad. So every time I meet up with her after the game, I always say, what did I do bad? Tell me what I did. And she would tell me. So then when I go watch film, it's exactly what she said.
Wow.
So then they got me to understanding a little bit more about myself. And then when I would go to her again, she'd tell me what to do bad. I say, yep, you're right. That's what I did. I'm already thinking about those things. So I have family members, my mom, my dad, they'll tell me what I did good. Fans, friends. Oh man, you were awesome. You had 3 sacks, blah, blah, blah. But my wife, yeah, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
That was the most important part of meeting up with somebody. So what did I do wrong?
Wow.
And I think it helped me out through my career.
That's powerful.
Yes.
I mean, you held her accountable to watching you play, and then she held you accountable to say, hey, here's what you've been doing.
Well, she was a big reason of why I was so good in college.
Wow.
And why I was good in NFL. I mean, she was my workout partner. She motivated me. She said all the right things. She pushed me both mentally and physically. If I didn't do something wrong, she'd call me out on it. If I did something great, she'd praise me about it. So she kept me going. Even when I tore my ACL, that was my first major injury. I tore my ACL, and she got to come in the training room. And this was after I broke down in front of the GM because we were really great friends. She said, okay, take a couple days. You can cry, whatever. But then after that, we getting back to work. It's like, okay, let's do it.
Wow.
Let's do it. And, the doctor said, it's going to be between 9 and 10 months for you to come back. I came back in 8.
Wow.
Because of her just constantly staying on me, staying with me and pushing me, to get back.
Yeah.
So she was a great motivation.
Man, feel like we need to get her on the podcast and hear her side of being that motivator, that person who inspires others to be even greater than their own self-belief.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What's your mindset now that you're done playing, obviously collegiate, professionally, you coach at a high level in college, you're coaching high school now. What's maybe 2 pieces of advice you could give your young men now to project them into the future, whether it's college, playing football, or just life in general?
Always have fun. Never let money, never let publicity, never let social media, any of that social life get in the way of you having fun. Because the moment you stop having fun is the moment that you stop trying to be great.
Oh man, that's good. I feel like we could end the podcast now. However, I want to keep going because I have a few questions I personally would like to ask you. How do you deal with negativity?
Negativity for me is, again, it goes back to my childhood, seeing, hearing everything that I've dealt with throughout my life. I don't let it bother me too much. The only time that it bothers me is when you come after my family. If you come after me, I don't care.
Right.
I mean, I've taken so much negativity from people in my town. I've taken so much negativity from teammates. I've taken negativity from coaches. It just goes into one ear out the other, because I think that was the beauty of living in that type of world of negative when you're thinking that you're doing something good. Is you get beat up so much that you kind of form that callus, kind of like what you use on your knuckles and whatever when you're hitting something, that it doesn't affect you like it would when you're fresh, doing it for the first time, or seeing it or hearing it.
Yeah. Wow. So when you're coaching now and you have been through a bunch of negativity, negative coaches, what's your coaching style like now? Is there a balance between positive gratitude and negativity?
Yes. So even through the negative things that I've heard throughout even through the negative things that I've heard my coaches say in high school, some in college, I still use that advice. However, I don't use it directly the way they did it. I form it into how I want to use it. Yeah. And so I take a little bit of the old school, a little bit of the new school, kind of form it into one. And so my philosophy is I'm going to have that same intensity when you do something bad as well as you do something good. So I try to get it to where the kids are thrown off. Like, is he mad at me or is he, excited about it? Because it's always the same for me. Yeah. I'm gonna be there with you. I'm gonna have fun. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna joke. But when you do something, my intensity of when I'm having fun, it's gonna be the same intensity when, I'm trying to help you or teach you something that you did wrong with. Yeah. So.
Wow. So it sounds like your leadership style is you understood what happened in the past, how to get kids to be motivated for the future, and you're taking present negative, positive, and put it into a ball, and you got your own style, which is growth.
Yeah. A lot of people don't learn. A lot of people, they don't like to learn from negative stuff. Right. But you have to. You have to learn from negativity as well as learning from somebody who's teaching you positive things. Sure. Because if you don't take those life lessons, how are you going to know when you're facing defeat? How are you going to know when you're facing that loss? How are you going to know when you caught up in a situation, you're walking down the street and somebody comes in and jumps in your face? Yeah. You learn because you saw those things happen to you, and so now you're prepared. Even though you wanted to just erase that from your memory, you can't. Right. There's a life lesson right there. It's like, okay, here's how I'm going to prepare for that, because I seen that 12 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I don't want to live life with just somebody telling me what I did good.
Yeah, it's true.
I want to live life knowing that I made mistakes, knowing that I can correct those mistakes, and then continue to have fun.
That's good. What are a couple questions you wish people would ask Coach Wilkerson, but no one ever asked?
How did you get to college? What was your life like growing up? Because a lot of people now, when they hear my name or they see my stats on the internet, they don't understand how I got there, or what it took for me to get to those situations or get those stats. The other thing is, what was your mindset like? Were you always the best athlete? And the answer to that was no. I had tons of guys who were on the same team as I was, or that played a year before me that was way better than I was. My deal was I was more consistent.
Yeah.
So talent alone does not guarantee longevity in sports.
Yeah.
You got to be more consistent than the next person. I mean, I've seen first rounders, second rounders come in my position in the NFL, and I'm still in the NFL and they're not. So I'm more consistent in there.
Yeah.
You accept the challenge, and then you work harder than they do.
Yeah.
And then you do it on a more consistent basis.
Yeah.
That's winning.
That is winning. That's undefeated.
Yeah.
I love it. Who are 3 people you would love to have coffee with or call on the phone when you needed someone to talk to, dead or alive?
Oh, wow. My grandmother on my mom's side, was really close to her. She died when I was really young. I think it was in 92 when she passed. I actually witnessed that. It was on Mother's Day. We had just got home from church, and all the girls were in the house, all the boys were outside, but I was sitting right there on the steps, just watching the kids play, listening to them. Always the type of kid that liked to be around older people, whether it's the deacons, whether it's, because there's a lot of wisdom, that's coming out of the room, so I like to listen in, and I wish I had her here so I can, talk to her, maybe get some advice from her. The other one would be Lamar Hunt, former was the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
I wish I could spend just a day with him. The reason why I say his name is because being drafted in the 6th round, a lot of owners are not gonna know. Once the first round is over with, nobody really cares who they pick after the 2nd round. So I'm walking down the tunnel, getting ready to taking pictures. He's coming back because they had already taken their pictures. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go shake his hand because he drafted me. I said, hello, Mr. Hunt. My name is Jimmy Wilkerson. He's like, I know who you are. 6th round draft pick, went to the University of Oklahoma from Omaha, Texas. Those were the words.
Wow.
And I'm like, how does an owner who's got millions of dollars know who I am being drafted in the 6th round? It's because he took the time to understand who is working for him. I became a part of the Chiefs family when he said that. Let's see, number 3. That's a tough one. There's a guy that I played with in Tampa for 1 year. Didn't really get to know him as much as I knew Kevin Carter, Chris Hovan. His name is Gaines Adams. Got dealt a bad. He was a 1st round draft pick. We had just swapped coaches. John Gruden for Raheem Morris, and he was kind of having a bad season, and he got traded to Chicago. After that, he passed. And that is one guy that I wish I could have, sat down and talked to.
Yeah.
Just a one-on-one and just pick his brain and see where he was at in life. Because, he was a young talent that was on the verge of being really good. He just needed the right person to, get him over that process, over that hump. So.
Wow. You mentioned your grandma, and you witnessed her passing?
Yes.
Outside, or?
She was in the house. So all my sisters, my mom, my aunts were in there. Again, during that time, Mother's Day, everybody comes over to grandma's house, and we eat. The kids go outside and play. Everybody else, they stay in. They just talk about life, talk about church, talk about, what's going on in everybody else's family. Well, she gets up, and then one of my aunts says, "What's wrong?" No, it's my oldest sister. She said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I don't know." Then boom, she fell. So she had a stroke. Now, where we are from in our town, when you call the ambulance, it's not 5-10 minutes. I mean, it took them a long time to get there because we're in a small town. They're on the other side of town. So yeah. That's when the ambulance showed up, I was like, yeah, she's not gonna make it. So, it was tough, but I think she inspired a lot of us just by who she was, her upbringing, and the life lessons that she left before she passed.
Right. What are you most proud of?
Well, being married for 20 years. NFL player who's married for 20 years, that says a lot. My kids, even though that what I want from them is not typically what they want, I think they're still, being successful in life. My oldest son is, he's a young entrepreneur who he's always pushing forward. My second oldest is a kid with such tremendous talent that he's still scratching the surface of his talent. He plays both soccer and football. He pretty much does every sport, but at this age, you can only limit yourself.
Yeah.
He is like me. He was the type of kid that whatever challenge that you put out in front of him, he's not going to ask questions. He's just going to dive right into it.
Yeah.
My oldest son, he's more of a gotta ask 20 questions before I give you an answer type person. He's been that way since he was a little kid. My youngest son is more of a combination of both of them.
Okay.
There are times where he's just you give him a challenge, he's gonna dive right into it, no questions asked. And then there's other times where he's gonna be like, well, what if I do this, this, and this, and this? He's gonna ask a bunch of questions before he gives, he takes that plunge. My daughter is adventurous, she likes to be the center of attention. She likes to control situations. She has humbled me a lot because, being around guys for the longest time that I've, played football, it's very humbling and good to have a girl. It's with the three boys, it was always rough house, and then she came along. It's kind of like mellowed me out a little bit. She was the one that when I was doing personal training, she was outside with me. She was barking at them, just go, and so she's helping me out a lot. So I'm most proud of the things that I have accomplished through life, and by football, and that's helped me get my family to where they're at. You know, 20 years of marriage. Kids are being successful in sports, and you know, they're in a good place in their life, so where they can continue to be successful as they continue their journey.
Yeah. I love your mindset, Coach. I love the leadership. I feel like this is what the world needs more of in modern day society.
I try to be outside of the box as much as I can. I don't like when people say you can't or I can't. Because when you say I can't, that means you're putting limitations on me. And I want the ceiling to be as high as it can, so I can go as far as I want to go without hitting the ceiling. I don't want limits.
I love that. When you say when you use the word or the phrase "I can't," I officiated a friend's wedding this past weekend. He's in the Air Force, and he's on the dock. He was fishing, I was fishing, and his daughter was out there. She's trying to cast rod and reel, and she's like, "Dad, I can't." And he looked at her. He's like, "You know we don't use that phrase in our household." And she's like, "You're right, Dad. I'm sorry." How powerful is that?
It's
to your
very
point.
Powerful. You know, when you start them at a young age, of getting that phrase out of their mindset of I can't do it, I can't run another one, I can't do this. No, you can. You have to keep telling yourself that you can. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. It's like your body is saying I can't. No, sorry, let me backtrack. Your mind is telling your body that you can't do it.
Right.
Your body in a way is telling you you can, but you can't hear him because your mind is being super loud, and your body's trying to tell you, we can go another rep, we can run more. And you know, it's hard to listen to your body when your brain is talking.
That's good. That's really good. Man, I love it. You got a few more minutes so we can go through some questions. I feel like I have some of these memorized, but I don't want to get them all mad at me. All right, here we go. How do you give back to the community?
I give back to the community by seeing the opportunities that are there in front of me. You know, like if there's a guy on the street who has a sign, you know, if I have money, it's like, hey, I'll give it to you. Or, you know, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, going through the school and not just walking past students, but actually looking at and observing them and seeing if, you know, if there's pain. I've helped a lot of students just by walking past them, not even knowing who they are, just by walking past them and say, hey, are you doing okay? You know, is there anything that's bothering you? Because nobody's going to ask those questions.
Yeah.
They don't have time for it.
Yeah.
And that is the problem that is one of the problems that we have as people. We don't have time to just stop what we're doing to ask somebody else how they're doing.
That's powerful, man.
I think if we take the time to just 30 seconds, hey, how are you doing today? You know what would make your day go better? If you'd smile. You know, something like that.
Sure.
I mean, I think that just those little words would be so powerful to people that feel that nobody understands what they're going through in that moment. You know, just say, hey, how are you doing? You know, I think that would be such an uplifting moment to a person. You know, so that's my giving back is I used this title for a kid that at OCA, he was senior, Callan Proctor. He asked me to write something for him. And my title was Seeing the Unseen. So we walk through life, you walk down, you know, through your office, you don't see the people, you don't see their struggle, you just see people. So you see them, but you don't see the unseen, the things that they're dealing with in their life.
Wow. That's good. That's good. What's a favorite tradition of yours?
Well, Well, it's something that I used to do in the league with me and my wife. We'd always have pasta. We'd always go to whatever type of pasta restaurant that we could find, whether it's an away game or whether it's a home game, and eat pasta. That was our moment. I think I don't really have a tradition now because of bouncing around.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to 3 schools since being in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to start a tradition when you're not there for very long.
What's your favorite road environment in college? And then the same question for the pros.
My favorite road environment? I think when we travel down to Texas, on the bus, because we don't fly. When we go to Cotton Bowl, we don't fly. Everybody gets on the bus, traveling down there. I think just the experience of not having to think about football. When I look out the window, and this may sound weird to people, but I look at the fields, I look at trees, I look at the roads, I look at cars going by. You don't get to see that when you're so busy with football.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one of my favorite things to do when I'm not driving or when I'm not focused solely on my job, is to take a moment and just look at the world.
Love it.
Look out there and just enjoy the beauty of the scenery that you're seeing. The grass, take time to smell the fresh cut grass, or the rain if it's raining. It's the little things that when you put it all together, it adds up to something big, something special.
Yeah, that's excellent. What's your favorite music and then your favorite song?
So I'm a big fan of Al Green.
Okay.
So every time that I need a moment to just like chill, unwind, I'm putting on some Al Green. I grew up, listening to Al Green. I think he's one of the best singers that I've heard in my time. But then when if I want to, if I'm in the gym, if I want to, get pumped up, get the blood flowing, I'm putting on AC/DC.
Nice.
I gotta go with the Back in Black album. I mean, it's just the way they sound. It's the way the guys hitting the guitar, the drums, the sound of the lead singer. I mean, it's very motivating to want to do more. And then Al Green comes through with that soft and church-like vibe, in his voice. It just makes you kind of like calm down, chill, just, everything is all good.
Man, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
You can switch gears pretty quick with music. Okay, so what are your thoughts on Neil? The name, image, likeliness for football.
Neil?
College football. Yeah, I think that's what this guy asked. The name, image, likeness, where college footballs can get paid for showing up to press or events, signing autographs.
Oh, for college players. I wish they would have done it when I was playing. I mean, it's crazy how things that they tried to do when I was playing was illegal, and now it's legal. But I guess that's the way the world has evolved.
Okay, fair enough. Well, my question to that is, do you think it's going to trickle down to the high school and middle school?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Why? I mean, there's no way it wouldn't. I mean, you already see now. I mean, there are guys who have left college. I mean, have left their senior year in high school to go play because of the money.
Oh. What are your thoughts? What would you recommend to a high school junior, senior?
Play, graduate. Get your degree, get your high school diploma. I mean, if you're good, colleges are going to be there. But don't jeopardize your high school diploma for something that is somewhat temporary. Because you look at the guys who go to college who get paid now. If a coach says something wrong, to them, or they don't like where they are on the team, or if they don't like, the record of the team, what do? They leave, right?
Yeah.
And then they get more money. It's, in a way, it's you've set a lot of these kids up to be selfish. In a way, because me growing up, you're following the tradition, and that's the other thing. A lot of these kids nowadays, they don't understand the history of these colleges of where they're going. They don't understand the guys who have paved the way for this moment that they're having. They don't want to take the time to look back because they're too busy looking forward about themselves and not about how they got to this moment. So you got to understand the tradition of these schools. I wouldn't have left OU if we were in this time now. It's too rich.
Wow.
It's too rich. Yeah, we had great coaches, but when you hear about Leroy Selman, the Selman brothers, come on.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to stay? The Boz.
Yeah.
Billy Sims. I want to be like those guys.
Facts. Yeah.
So if I leave, I can't be like those guys. Now I gotta go try to be like somebody at a different school. And that's the mindset. If you have, like, if things go wrong, doesn't go your way, then you leave.
Yeah.
So what happens when it's all said and done, football's over with? And you have to go get a job, or you get into coaching, and you don't like what you see, you don't like what you hear, you're just gonna leave.
Yeah.
Or you start a job despite you really needing this job to support your family, or you need this job because if you don't have this job, they're gonna take away, they're gonna turn your lights off, or they're gonna kick you out of your house, or whatever. The boss says something to you that you don't like.
Yeah.
You're just gonna automatically walk away and quit.
Right.
That's not having a strong mindset.
It's true.
You got to go through struggle sometimes to get that reward at the end.
I love it. How do you want to be remembered, Coach?
As a guy who always liked to have fun. As a guy who always try not to take things for granted.
Yeah.
I don't want to be known as a famous guy who played the game of football. I want to be known as a guy who loved the game and always just had fun. Just a regular guy playing the game that everybody is chasing.
I love it. Well, Coach, the first time I met you, you brought great energy. You brought great energy here today, your leadership mindset. And actually, you made this really fun for me, so I appreciate you.
It was a lot of fun for me, too.
Yeah.
I had a blast.
Absolutely. How do people get in touch with you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Wilkerson. And if you have any questions, love to hear from you. I'm a pretty quiet guy, so a lot of times you don't see me out there on the social media world. But if you guys got questions, I'll be sure to answer them.
It's election season, so Coach Jimmy Wilkerson, do you approve this podcast?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Kyle Golding, you approve this podcast?
1,000%.
My name is Wong Lam, and I approve this podcast. Appreciate you, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
We appreciate your support to Defining Moments podcast. A good friend of mine once told me the best one out there is the one having the most fun, and he's exactly right, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're having the most fun. Why? Because we can and we want to. Find us on social media, Twitter at Def Moments Pod. That's at DEF Moments Pod. On Instagram, Facebook at Defining Moments Podcast. Take us on the go from iHeartRadio to Spotify, all the way to YouTube. Search Defining Moments Podcast. Check out our swag at definingmomentspod.com. We have a merchandise store. A lot of great stuff. Follow us on social media. We love to do giveaways. Why? Because we're undefeated. Have a good day.